Okay, so I'm standing here in quite a compact kitchen. All the cabinetry is pretty much standard base cabinets with just a shelf in them. They're 24 inches deep. They've got a drawer here, so that's super handy. But of course, the cabinets themselves with these deep shelves are not really super handy, especially when you consider how narrow these are. These are like 12 inches wide. Same as the base cabinets here, they're a little under. So to make these cabinets more functional, we're going to measure them up and build some pullouts. Hey, welcome back. So before we get started, I just want to apologize for the audio on some of the clips in this video. For whatever reason, the lavalier mic decided it would start and stop, and I had no idea that that was going on until after the fact. So the only audio I had was from the camera, and that obviously isn't as high a quality as it should be. Okay, let's get to the video. So all I'm going to do today is just get the measurements, so behind each of the doors that I'm going to do. I know they're 24 inches deep, so that's a standard sort of depth. And we'll go back to the shop with those measurements and build some pull-out. And it's going to really transform how usable this space in this little kitchen is. So whatever drawing software you're using, it needs to be, if you're doing this to make money at least, it needs to be fast and simple to use, I guess. It's all well and good to do really nice 3D drawings, and that can be really, really helpful for the client. For me personally, I look at a 2D drawing and this is all I need to go out into the workshop and build what it is that I need to do. If you need 3D drawings and you can do 3D drawings really quickly and easily, then, you know, that's the way to go. So once I've got my drawings done, I use a program called MaxCut. I'm using the free version of the program, which for me is perfect. I don't need the extra functionality that the business edition would give me. It's simply a case of entering the dimensions of all the parts I need for the project I'm working on. You have the ability to change settings like the units of measurements to suit your workflow. At the end of the day, though, it's simply a piece of software that nests all the parts needed for the given size and type of sheet goods, minimizing the waste. So once I've got all my parts entered into the software for each of the different materials, if there are different materials, I simply optimize that list. Depending on how you're cutting up your sheet goods, you might choose a different method of optimization. For a CNC, you would likely choose the normal method. However, for a regular table saw or a sliding table saw, you can choose to rip or use the crosscut method of optimization. Those optimized plans I'll print to a PDF, print that out on the printer, and then take those down to the workshop to start cutting things up. Okay, so I've got my drawings here of my nested parts. So now I'm just going to cut up these sheets. I am, by the way, using a scoring blade on this just to minimize any tear out, mainly on the cross cuts, and a fairly fine blade, regardless of how you cut them up, whether it's on a regular table saw or with a track saw or something like that. Just if you go at a feed rate that you're not going to get a lot of chip out, you should be good. Let's get these cut up and we'll go from there. All right, so that's all the parts cut that I need. Now it's just a case of prepping things, sanding things, and putting things together. So not really a lot involved here. First thing we're going to do is just do a little bit of sanding of some parts. A lot of the stuff I'll probably put together and then round over edges, but certainly parts that I won't be able to sand after the fact, I'll sand first. So okay, so the next thing that we need to do is drill the front and back of these pullouts for shelf pins so that we can have somewhere that the removable shelves sit on. So I'm going to start with these two longer ones. You can actually do it with, really simple jig like this that I've essentially marked, a line on it, and for every 32 millimeters I've drilled a hole, put a screw in, and then I use that to essentially put on the board wherever I need it. Whack it with a hammer or a soft mallet, and then I use a 5 millimeter brad point drill bit with a little collar as a stop to only drill a certain depth, and that does the trick. But you can literally, move this along and just get as many floors as you like, starting from one end. So yeah, not critical that you don't have some of the equipment that I've got. So there you have it. Yeah, all the holes are nicely bored. And if we get a couple of shelf pins, pop them in there, you'll see that the shelf here will actually sit nicely over the pins. What I've got to do now with these parts is essentially put them all together. So this on, and I've actually gone to the 18 gauge nailer now. Would probably help if I turned it on. There we go. So I'm just simply going to use a brad nail or two to get these fixed, and then I'll come back and screw them off. So I'm just going to pre-drill these, and the most important thing with this, in fact I'll try and do it here where you can see it, is that because I'm using 1/2 inch ply, I need to ensure that, you know, it's straight this way. So I'm going to line things up here and make sure that I'm at 90 degrees. I'll put the screws in there. Now, when I do the other parts, I'm actually going to again line it up this way because, you know, the thickness of perhaps more to the point, the thinness very little to play with here. Very little room for error, I guess, more to the point. Okay, so the slides that I'm using for these pullouts, there's actually two kinds. You could just go with one of these types of slides. In my case, I don't have as many of the progressors as I do the regular soft close Silice slides. On these smaller pullouts, you could totally get away with or totally use the regular Silice slides. The difference between the two is that these slides essentially are just free. Apart from the part where the little mechanism engages for the soft close, they slide wherever they want to. The progressors, on the other hand, are essentially geared. You can see there's a little sort of like a rack and pinion gearing on it, so they can only slide at a given rate, if you will. Meaning that with these two slides, if you had a really wide draw, you're not going to have the issues with racking that you might with these slides. And certainly with side-mounted slides, you get that a lot, and that's why I tend to use undermount slides. I just find them a much better slide for your typical draw sizes. Now, the reason why I'm going to use these progressors, and I'm going to use two pairs of them, is for the tall pullout. And because with the progressors, not only are you stopping any racking, because they will always slide exactly the same between each drawer slide. But obviously then if I then mirror that to the upper part of the pull out, it's going to not allow it to rack forward and backwards. So hence the reason why even though I'm short on these progressor slides, I'm using 4 on that tall one, and that's going to really make that operate nicely. So the first thing that I've got to do to all of these pullouts is to make a cutout in the back here, and that's to allow for the slide to sit down on the underside of the base. And how I'm going to do that, I don't need much. For the progressors, I'm going to take 45 millimeters out. These I'll just take, say, 30 millimeters out, and that'll be plenty. So 30 millimeters from there, 30 from there. It doesn't have to be exact. It's just got to allow that part of the slide to slip down. Now, all I'm going to do here is freehand this with a bottom bearing bit. This router bit, it's just a simple 1/4 inch upcut bit with a bottom bearing, or I guess it's actually got maybe 2 bearings. Okay, so as you can see there, that sort of, it's not perfect, but it absolutely doesn't need to be either. So this now just needs to be drilled so that the little tongue, if you will, on the end of the slide here will fit in, and that'll lock that into position. What I've got here is this is a Bloom jig, and it's essentially a kit that you would buy from Bloom. Salice had the same, and I've got those over there. I prefer the Bloom one for making backhoe. I just find it's a little more accurate. So go to there. Basically, all I'm doing is holding this jig up the side here. A little hole there, and you'll see now these clips are what hold the slide down at the front of the drawer, or in this case our pull out, and the tang on the back holds the back. But what I'll need to do is actually drill these first. So all I'm using is a little number 5 screw. Drivers, I'm just going to be really careful. All right, so now that's fixed, and this will actually slide in here and connect there. So that's now nice and solid, and as you can see, it's going to operate beautifully. So we'll just drill this other side for both. So we'll get this in here done. Drill this. So there we have it. So that's now then going to just mount in the cabinet itself. That should work nicely. So we'll sand this up, get this all finished, put a finish on it, and go from there. So these are going to sit under here. So I need to cut the edge of this out so that this will actually fit under. So the router bit, the bearing is going to run on the ply here and on the underside of this shelf here. And then I need something to make this a nice neat cut. So what I'm going to do is just quickly make up a template here that I can clamp on and follow around, which will make it super easy and fast to get these done. And it will mean that all future pullouts that I do using this particular slide will work. I'll be able to do them much faster. So we're going to make that little jig up, and we'll go from there. Okay, so here we go. This is all I've done for a jig. It's really simple. It is essentially 45 millimeters down, 57 millimeters in. I simply went to the bandsaw and cut that piece out. And how that's going to work is it will sit underneath, up against the underside of this top shelf, and I'll just flush this up here with this edge and using a little clamp here. And then I'll actually have to use this F-style clamp to actually reach the other end. Ideally, it might be a little bit longer, but this is going to do for now. And then all I'm going to do again is take this this flush trim bit and then run it around this, and you'll see how it works. This stuff out of there. There we go. So really, like I say, really simple. Doesn't have to be super complicated with a lot of this stuff. And that's just giving me a spot where this is now going to go and connect like the other one. So all I need to do from here is hold this here. Let's drill this in here. Down. Do for now. And then we'll grab our slide, put it in. That's all locked in. Perfect. There you have it. And this one is just like the first one, so I'm not going to bore you with that. Okay, so I've got everything sanded now, filled and sanded. All the edges are rounded over, so there'll be no chance of getting splinters and anything in the fingers. Looks like they've got like I said, a couple of grubby hand prints on it. So good just to have a good look around and make sure it's clean. Because once you put a finish on, it doesn't come off so easily. turn that off so it's a little bit easier to hear. So the first coat is just going to sort of seal everything. I'll give it then a light sand. And these will get 2 or 3 coats depending on how heavy it goes on. Because this is a little bit tricky, there's lots of different angles I need to be coming in from. I will probably go lighter and do more coats. I'll do 3 coats. Alrighty, so the last thing that I've got to do here is just give everything a light sand with some 320 and a top coat, a varnish, and that's that. Okay, that's the last of it. Now just pack everything up in the truck and take it to site and install it. All right, that's the last of it. All right. I've cut 2 pieces of ply here. The length that I need to sit the slide on there and get it at exactly the right height from the bottom, and then the bottom slide will actually sit on the bottom of the cabinet. So okay. All right, so now we'll just do the other side. Put the other slide in, just all the same, just the opposite obviously. Oh, some of these are from the old batch of screws, and they had a number 1 Robertson's head, and all the rest are number 2s. Okay, so that's that. May actually need to pull these out to get these to go on. Let's just see, shall we? So they will go there. Actually, you know what? That's probably the way to go. A little tricky, but I think it's going to work. Bye. Voila. Okay, so all I've done here is drilled some 11/64 holes here, and I've got them in positions where they're going to actually hit the center of these rails on the doors. So I'm going to use an 1.125". They're a little pan head screw, commonly used for pocket screws, I guess. Let's make sure those are clicked in, which they are. So there you have it. Now obviously the client can space the shelves wherever they like, but yeah, I think that'll probably do them to start with. All right, so that's everything installed. And as you can see, we've transformed these cabinets into cabinets with a lot more usable space, especially considering how narrow they were. And yeah, obviously these three, all the middle shelves, if you will, are all movable. So that makes, customization much easier. The middle, the lower shelf down, the lower pull-out down here, fixed top shelf, fixed bottom shelf, and one movable shelf in the middle. So if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.